there, I'm Judy Croon. Welcome to the Judy Croon Show. Today is Friday. You know what that means? It's Psychic Friday, and I'm so excited. I'm welcoming an old friend back who has been on Psychic Friday numerous times, Ursula Darby. Ursula is a psychic medium who is a skeptic and as a result calls out fake psychics. She's also an animal communicator, a certified grief educator, and public speaker. So right off the top, Ursula, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Judy. Long time no see.
This is terrific. I've been so looking forward to this. Now, tell folks what you mean when you say that you are a skeptic and as a result, you call out fake psychics.
Well, it sounds derogatory, first of all, and that's not the place that I'm coming from. My experiences, I'm 52. My experiences with seeing dead people, let's just go with graphic, started at the age of 5. It was terrifying. It was frightening. I didn't have a supportive home life. I couldn't tell them. I didn't share anything. I didn't understand any of it. And even when I started to explore it to understand it, I was skeptical because I kept meeting people that were just full of and none of it made sense to me. It was confusing. It was frustrating.
Can I ask you 2 quick questions there? How old were you approximately, and what did these dead people that you saw, what did they look like? Like, could you see through them? Were they black and white? Were they shapes? Were they blobs with red eyes? What were they?
No, they weren't. That's called paranormal TV shows. I saw shadows. I heard footsteps. I heard crowds of people talking in my room. This started when I was 5, and it happened every single night of my life.
Were you freaked out, or were you like, oh, that's because you hear stories of people saying, no, I welcomed it. It was fine. I knew it was cool. What was your reaction?
That's calling out the BS fake psychics. That's who those people are.
So what was your reaction?
I was terrified. I was terrified because I didn't know what it was. Like, I didn't have the language for it. I had no idea what was going on. And you could see I could see shadows walking around my room. People would sit on my mattress. I knew because it was the size of a person, the mattress would move down. I'd hear people talk and like couldn't make out what they're saying, but crowds of people, my door opening and closing, and feeling them. So before I'd fall asleep, as an example, if you're home alone and you know where the dog is and you're doing your thing on the computer and all of a sudden you're just like, I'm not by myself. I bet my partner came home. You feel that sensation. That's what I felt every single night. And it would start, and I felt it in my body immediately. And I'd hold my breath. I'd pull the sheets over my head, and I'd freeze because I was afraid whatever it was would see me.
Like, did they arrive at the same time every night or early morning?
Throughout the night. Never daytime. Always throughout the night, just before I'd fall asleep, or they wake me up out of sleep.
So I guess the next question is, how did you learn to talk to about this? How did you learn how to deal with it?
It took me years to understand what it was. I spoke to famous and non-famous psychics that said I was full of crap. When I told them my experiences, because I was looking for help and support and I wasn't getting it. And they were like, that can't possibly happen. But if you take my course, then you'll be a medium. Let's call out some fake psychics. It was disappointing. It was difficult because my experiences have never stopped. They were ongoing. And I made sense out of them because, first of all, I was always frightened. So the language that you hear on TV shows, movies, that's relatable, right? So and you think those things are real, right? So I would be like, oh my gosh, something's coming to get me. I'd be terrified, like something awful's happening. Like maybe I'm unstable. Maybe my mental health isn't okay. Maybe I'm just a therapist. Maybe I'm just making this all up. Maybe I'm being dramatic. Like, what's wrong with me?
Right.
And I was having experiences ongoing, and I had to make sense out of them. And I thought I was being terrorized, and you could say that I was being haunted, but hauntings are BS. That's another thing we could talk about for hours. Is that people in spirit, this is how I made sense of it. It took years out of people in spirit coming to me, talking to me, being around me. And it wasn't a good experience when I made it my profession, is because I knew who I was talking to. I knew what was going on. And even then, sometimes I was still scared because when someone dies, they don't have any issues or concerns or physical issues in their body because your body dies. But they can still come and visit and give me a hard time if they were miserable and angry at their person that I'm about to read the next day. So I figured it out. People in spirit were coming to see me because they wanted to talk to someone that they loved. That sounds oversimplistic, but they're connected to my readings, so they are strangers. Do I think hauntings are real, that stranger, or, when you die, when your body dies, are you going to hang out in empty buildings and scare people? No.
Unless you're...
Homes aren't haunted. Buildings aren't
Okay.
haunted. Nothing's haunted. Your people in spirit visit you because you talk to them in your head. You say, I miss you. I love you for our baby that's coming here. I wish you were here for the wedding. I wish you were here for your birthday. I just wish you were here because I love you and I miss you. And then they hear you and they make a sound. They move something. They call your name. The song comes on the radio. That's their favorite song. You freak out, call me and say your house is haunted. That's your person in spirit. You're not haunted. You're talking to them.
You should be like, oh, that's so cool. They're saying hi to me. So,
But the first thing is they're like, the house is haunted.
So just to be clear, whenever you think of that person that has passed, whenever you think of them or you say, hi, Dad, hi, Mom, in those instances, if you're genuine in your feeling for them, are you really communicating with them? Are they sending you a signal or are you sending them a signal? And they're like, oh, hi, hey, how are you?
No, they spend time with you and visit you when you're not aware of it because they see what's going on, or else I wouldn't be able to tell people in readings what's happening with them.
Right.
They show up. You don't need to do any kind of special practices or emote anything in particular. You talk to your dad, say, Dad, I miss you, I love you. He shows up. There's nothing special about it. But people want to make it special, like fake psychics. Like if you just do this one ritual, you bang the bells and run around the room and say, I've got a message, then come on, really? No.
So your purpose, if I'm understanding this correctly, you realized what made sense to you was that you were almost like the phone in the Matrix. You were this portal, really, for all of these spirits who wanted to talk to their people. And you were that phone that was able to make the contact between the person that had passed on and the person here on Earth who was missing them.
All human beings have the skill that they're born of being intuitive and being a medium. Everyone's born that way. Everyone has these experiences, but people ignore them because of TV shows, belief systems, what people tell each other. These are evil spirits, horrible things. No, they're your people. They're not strangers.
Okay, so what was your purpose? You're not a portal. You're not a phone. How would you describe it? You were
people in spirit noticed me, and they noticed that I paid attention to them, and then they wouldn't leave me alone.
But to your point, you're saying everybody has the ability to do that.
Every
they
single
just don't.
Human being on the planet is a medium. A medium means connecting to and talking to people that are in spirit. They're your people. You don't need a Ouija board. You are the Ouija board.
That's great. Now that would freak some people out. Some people
because they attach belief. Belief is not required to use your intuition. That's the BS that's out there. You just use your five senses. And when people say, well, what do you mean you use your five senses? So example being, if you bring your attention to yourself, your self-awareness, give it a 5-minute exercise. You leave the house to go get milk. You go to the store and you just make yourself aware of how you're feeling. You walk in the store, you walk through the door, it's like, oh, it's kind of cold out here. It's winter, the snowstorm, cool, that's fine, you notice that. You pick up the milk that you need, you're feeling good, you had a great sleep. You walk up to the cashier and she goes, hi, and she has a big smile on her face, and all of a sudden you feel like someone punched you in the gut. And the first thing that you do is go, oh my gosh, maybe I've eaten something funny. Okay, well, there's no funny foods. Or, what's going on? What is this? And if you bring your attention to that feeling, you start to feel pain and discomfort around your belly button, across your, into your pelvis, and it kind of radiates into your legs. And you're like, wow, there's nothing wrong with this. Must be something evil. Well, no, it's nothing evil. The cashier keeps talking to you and talking away and saying, oh, I just got back in for my doctor's appointment. I've been having a lot of stomach problems. And then you go, oh, so it was mine. I was picking up how they're feeling. Well, yeah. Why do we pick up how other people feel? Because that's a natural skill that we have. Why? So we're informed to support the other person, be there for them, or just have an awareness. Because we all need connection. We can't heal in isolation.
Now, I'm going to ask you, you are a certified grief educator. The last time we chatted, probably, I want to say like 7-8 years ago, I don't think you were a certified grief educator. I mean, you were dealing with people who were obviously grieving and wanted contact with their loved ones who had passed on. But what happened in your life that you decided to be certified in this?
A lot of people think and believe that I'm a fake BS psychic because there's so many out there. My community is riddled with criminals, so it makes sense, and that there's a long history of it. And even I'm a skeptic, right? Like even when I say I'm a psychic medium, that's not the right kind of language to use, but I haven't thought of anything else. So I've been professionally working for 21 years. And when the pandemic hit, people were all at home. And I was the busiest I have ever been. And I think I was doing up to 10 readings a week, which is a lot, hour long each.
Of course.
Individual readings, when people say reading, I don't use psychic tools. I don't use cards, crystals, candles, pictures, nothing. As soon as you're on the call, I don't even have to see you. I feel in my body how you feel. I see what you see and I hear what you experience. And the same applies to people that have died. And there are gaps where I knew when I was dealing with people, the intense amount of grief and pain that they were in, that I needed something more. And I wasn't prepared to go to school and become a psychotherapist, which, you really should, because you're dealing with people's mental health. Absolutely. And I have been in therapy for the past 10 years to heal the hurts and things that I've been through. I understand the concept and healing. And I was diagnosed with a binge eating disorder. I've recovered from that through therapy. And through all of that, and through the pandemic, seeing and feeling what people were going through, I knew I needed something more. And when I came across David Kessler's course, I thought, I'll give it a try. The very first night of the class, I was talking away, and every single thing he said was everything that I was experiencing through my 21 years.
And just for the record, who is David Kessler for our listeners?
David Kessler is a worldwide grief expert, I think. He's also co-authored with Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, the psychotherapist that is well known for her concepts that people misunderstand. And I'm not going to get into that part of the conversation.
That has nothing to do with it. Okay, got it.
No, she's a psychotherapist. And I don't know if David is a psychotherapist or not. He's been teaching about grief. I think he said 30 plus years. As soon as I took his class, in the very first class, I was like, I'm home. I think there was like over 300 students around the world that were in his class. And we would do breakout sessions of, what would you do in this experience? Talk about your experience. Well, early on, decided not to tell people what I did, because the majority of people that you would see were psychiatrists, psychotherapists, therapists, counselors, and watching how they were so confused and had zero experience with grief shocked me, because they say, well, how do I do that? What does this look like? And I'm just like, that's easy. I wasn't thinking that it was easy. I was thinking too that I was just like, oh my gosh, this is what I'm a part of. This is a part of me. It's been a part of me my whole life. And it lights me up to help people in grief. It makes me feel whole. And I hate this phrase, being a medium. It was meant to be. I hate that phrase. It's not.
But it was.
Grief has been a part of my life my whole life. And I feel like I'm home when I talk about it. And I will talk about death, dying, and grief until the day I die. Because we live in a grief illiterate society. People don't know how to support each other. They're so dismissive. They hurt other people. Because they don't know how to deal with it, because people don't want to talk about their feelings. They don't want to deal with their feelings. They've been taught not to. And I'm here to tell you that it's okay to.
I wanted to ask you, since a lot of our audience includes workplace professionals, I wanted to talk about grief and loss in the workplace. I mean, grief is often a private struggle. It's even hard enough to admit it to your friends and family members sometimes, but obviously it spills over into the workplace. How can someone navigate grief while still showing up for work?
People don't understand what grief is. And grief is a change that you didn't want. So changes in your life can be grieving, can apply to so many things: loss of employment, loss of a relationship, a divorce, loss of a dream that you wanted and that you didn't get to do because something had happened and you grieve that dream. Your health being affected, having great health and then all of a sudden being diagnosed with a chronic illness. That changes everything. Grief changes you. And people don't recognize it because nobody talks about it. They're like, well, why am I so angry? Because you're in pain, hurting, and you're scared. And no one's addressing it. Why? Because you're grieving. Well, it's just, I got fired. Well, yeah, you're right. That you loved that position. It was amazing. It made you feel so good. Yeah, it did. You're right. It does hurt. And it's okay to hurt. And in any kind of workplace setting, people feel so uncomfortable with death. People feel so uncomfortable with loss in any setting. And when you're dealing with someone who's grieving, if someone's gone on work leave, which is never enough time because there's no timeline to grief. You shouldn't be over it. You shouldn't have to move on. All those words, I'm going to chase you down. Okay, I'm not a violent person, but I want to. But listening to somebody helps them heal through grief. Witnessing someone talk about it helps them heal through grief. Facing their feelings helps them deal with their grief. And everyone grieves differently in their own unique way. There's no one way. There's no concept of a line, or it's none of those things. It's your way. And someone has a loss, they come into work and everyone's like, oh my gosh, I know that Lisa's husband died, and what do we say? What do we do? You witness them. And when I say that you witness them, this is something that people are very confused about, that you're not making how you feel about that person's death about them. You're not making anything about yourself. It has nothing to do with you. That person's grief is theirs. It's not yours. So when you think of them, you're parking your stuff, who you are, because you want your space to be for them. And your job is to listen. This is really difficult. Do you want to talk about it? No. Okay. Here, I brought you a cup of tea. You're not there to fix someone's grief, not your job. You're not there to help someone feel better, not your job. You're not there to entertain them because they're in pain. If they're in pain, let them be in pain. Be there for them. Be a safe haven for them. Be kind to them. That's all you have to do. And ask them if you want to hug them, right? Oh, well, no, okay, don't do that. Like there's ways to make space for someone else's grief. It's not yours. There's no solution. Their person's died. There's no advice. That's none of your business. And there's not a comparison. Your grief is not to be compared to someone else's grief. That will hurt someone deeply. What happens when someone's grieving is that people pretend that it hasn't happened. There's an elephant in the office. It has crushed 7 desks, and you still haven't said anything. What are you doing? That person's in pain. Be kind to them. Compassion is required. Listening is required. And when someone tells you what they've been through, it's not about you listening to them and making a comparison and thinking, well, how am I going to respond? You don't respond. It's not about you. Make space for them.
To that point, many people feel pressure to move on quickly after a loss, right? Especially in a professional setting. So what advice do you have for people trying to handle that pressure?
Grief is not talked about in society. So people put measurements on it, and they try to make sense out of it. Our brain wants to do that. And when someone says move on, and your husband's died or your wife has died, that's so painful to say to someone, because that's saying, you know what, get over it, get past it. You don't have feelings for them. What does this matter? They're gone, they're dead. You love them. They've been a part of your life, your whole life, every single experience. Grief is love. Someone says you to move on, that you don't love your person anymore. You're not going to feel that grief anymore because you love them. That doesn't stop. You're always going to miss them because you're grieving them. They're not in your life. And when someone makes a horrible statement to move on, they're misinformed. It's hurtful. It's not supportive. There is not a timeline to grief. Your partner died 20 years ago. You're still going to grieve them. You're never going to be over how much you love your person. That does not change.
So that leads me to my next question then. How can, say, managers and coworkers be more supportive of someone who's grieving without overstepping? But I think you sort of answered that when you said, witness it, give them space, listen, right?
Acknowledge them. Don't acknowledge them. Even saying they're in pain. You don't have to walk up and say, hey, listen, that awful thing happened. Do you want to talk about it? No, you say one of these things. Let's talk about this. So let's go here. You want to engage them in a way that is supportive of them. You don't say, how are you feeling? That's really kind of hard to talk about and say, listen, we did this thing over here. Do you want to come check it out? Or, I brought you a tea, or even you can ask those things, right? There aren't any hard and fast rules. And if they say, I don't want to talk, and you're like, that's okay. You don't have to. It's being there to listen to them. Like, I don't want to go there. And if they start to cry, you hand them a tissue. If they start to get really visibly upset, you say, I'm so sorry. This is so awful. You're showing compassion to someone. I don't believe that people know how to be compassionate. You need to learn to be compassionate. You need to learn to be empathetic. I met someone recently that said to me, a real estate agent, that said she was at the home to sell, and the homeowner was sobbing because they just had to euthanize their dog, their best friend. And this woman said to me, I couldn't leave her. I stayed. I didn't know what to do. I stayed for 4 hours. I tried to help. I tried to fix things. I tried to listen. And she was so agitated and upset. She's like, what am I supposed to do? You listen. You know how painful that is. You don't have to feel how the other person feels. They're in pain. You know what it's like to be in pain. Show someone kindness. Don't make their pain about you. It's not about you. It's got nothing to do with you.
I'm on the phone with Ursula Darby. Ursula is a psychic medium. She's an animal communicator, a certified grief educator, and public speaker. If you want to reach out to Ursula, whether it's a speaking gig or whether it's just you want some more information, ursuladarby.com. I'm going to include that in the information with the podcast. Or if you want to send Ursula a note, bookwithursula@gmail.com. So I understand that you have a gig coming up. Can you tell us all about it?
Yeah, it's called Messages from Spirit, where I message audience members from their people that have passed away. And I also provide grief education and support to the audience too, to help them through those really difficult times and teach people how to support each other in their communities. It's happening on Saturday, March 22nd from 1 till 3 p.m. at Grey Roots Museum and Archives in Owen Sound. And tickets are on sale on my website at ursuladarby.com.
All right, ursuladarby.com. You have got to see her. She is a wonderful individual, an incredible public speaker, a certified grief educator that, as she was saying, it is a gift to be able to witness and to be a place for people to share their feelings, their sadness, or their joy about someone, right?
Our communities, the way that it's with other people in our communities. And that's why I do what I do.
Ursula, you couldn't have said it better. I'm so honored to have you on Psychic Friday. Thank you so much for joining me.
So good to see you.